Hello, and welcome to my channel. This is my first upload. I finally decided to go ahead and do this. As they say, you need to jump in, otherwise it's never going to get done. Here I am going to be talking mainly about video games, a lot of the ones that I grew up with, as well as some of the newer things. I do love gaming in general. Also just general collecting. I do have quite a variety of collections from books, video games, movies, cards, all sorts of little goodies. Today's video is just an introduction to myself, welcome, and to the library that I have here. I will be going over the videos more in depth in the future, but in the meantime, just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of what we got here. Everything from figures, collectibles. I have a setup. This is here in my room. Unfortunately, I do seem to be running out of room quite quickly. It can't be avoided when you are a physical game collector. We'll be going over why I enjoy physical games as opposed to digital in a later video. As well as going over, like I said, each one of these games here as well, and showing gameplay. I am trying streaming as well. I'm going on Twitch and hopefully here on YouTube Live if I can get that to work. I have been having some technical issues with it. But now, I do want to talk a little bit about this. I don't want to be misleading with it. Let's start with the Nintendo collection. I am a product of the 80s, early 90s, and I grew up with the Nintendo as my first system. I do remember when we first got it here, we had a very strict rule as to how long we can play on the Nintendo. These boxes, now, as you know, every collector has a different way of collecting what they consider to be a complete set and all that. For the most part, most of my collection here is complete in box. Most of my collection here does have the manuals, as well as the cartridges where applicable. However, there are some exceptions, and these Nintendo ones are the exception. Now, I do have some of them here, let's say like Gunsmoke, that are complete in box, the original box. They do have the manual and everything. Oh, I love this game. It was so much fun back in the day. Very difficult game. When they talk about Nintendo hard, well, we'll get into what Nintendo hard means, but a lot of these I had actually gone on Etsy for the box. Now, all these Nintendo games do have the original manual, the original cartridges. I don't like getting fake cartridges, so I'm emulating. To each their own, but I do prefer to have just the physical media here. And I do like to have the manuals. Now, the reason the manuals are important to me is because in the older games, you would have to jump into these games with practically no knowledge of what's going on. The manuals pretty much told you how to play the game, what the objectives were. The newer games out here do kind of hold your hand when it comes to playing them, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You know, they are more enjoyable, love the graphics of the newer games, but you do kind of miss the simplicity of the Nintendo, the Sega Genesis. But at the same time, if you try hopping into one of these without knowing exactly what you're doing, it could be a challenge. I mean, some of them are pretty simple, Mario Brothers, for example, but then there's others that you just really have no clue what you're doing. World Runner, I used to play that quite a bit. That's one example of that. But a lot of these are also from my childhood. I did have the World Runner growing up, as well as Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. I actually just beat Adventures for the first time ever. Fester's Quest was another one that I had as a kid, and yeah, that's one that it's notorious because it is rather difficult, and yeah, I never really did get very far with it. Mega Man was one of my favorites as well. Very difficult game. But moving on from Nintendo, as I did state, these boxes, except like I said, for the one for the Gunsmoke, are replica boxes. I got them off of Etsy. They all do have the original cartridges and the original manuals. They just are replica boxes. Now, same replica with this Game Boy box. I can't seem to find the Game Boy box for Alice in Wonderland. But again, with the Pokemon games, also replica boxes, cartridge, and the game are original. I actually used to have these complete in box, along with the Pokewalker for Gold and Soul Gold and Soul Silver, which we'll get to into all that later. But yeah, unfortunately, I did lend them over to my nephew. Never did see those again. What I am going for, and you're going to see my biggest part of the collection here, is going to be the Sega Genesis. Now, while I was an 80s child, I did grow up in the early 90s. So Sega Genesis was really the one that me and my cousin would play the most. So I do want to go for a complete in-box set. Of course, not with the Outback Joey. I would love to have Outback Joey. And maybe someday I can save enough money to purchase something like that. But a lot of those games, and like Outback Joey, for example, is a good example of this. Let's say that you do happen to have $5,000 just lying around to buy a copy of Outback Joey. Good luck finding one. It's not something that comes out on eBay very often, and it's not really considered to be part of a complete set. Like stadium events isn't necessarily considered to be part of a complete Nintendo set. I just like the aesthetics of having the boxes. I really do, which is why I got the replica boxes for the Nintendo games and the Game Boy games. Mainly because, it just shelves better. And like I said, I do know a lot of collectors do just cartridge only. There are some of these in here that are just custom boxes, for example, because like Sailor Moon. I do love Sailor Moon, and this game is amazing. It's like it's a beat 'em up like Streets of Rage, but this one I had to get a custom box because it's not a official release here in the States. It is a Japanese game. Same thing. Well, same thing, but not same situation with Miracle Piano. I have the full Miracle Piano, the piano itself, all the connectors, all that kind of stuff. I don't have a box for it. I really should look into getting a box for it, but I did, this custom box here. I went ahead and ordered for the Miracle Piano. But as I stated, those are more exceptions to it. Those two don't have a manual for it because, again, they don't come with a manual. The Miracle Piano may come with a manual. I should take a look to see about a complete in-box set for that, but that's really more of a gimmicky type of thing. Even some of the lesser games here, the sports games that everybody scoffs at, I do make sure to get as much as I possibly can with them. I don't have like registrations for everything and all that, but for example, here it does have the registration card. That's not as important to me. What's important to me is the manual. And in this case, it came with like some cards, the stats for the different baseball players. And that's a nice little thing that they went ahead and added to it. Some of these do come with little extras aside from just the manuals. Another one I believe was Fighting Masters, and that's another one that I grew up with that I really enjoyed. This one, it's a fun game, kind of clunky. It was all the rage of the Mortal Kombat type games with creatures and such. Of course, comes with the manual, the game, and all that. But I also managed to get the cards that come along with it. This was a little extra that they put in there. Great game. I do love it. And I'll go over it one of these days, but definitely not refined. Definitely not a refined game. And people were just getting into the whole fighting game mania that Mortal Kombat had created with games like Fighting Masters and Eternal Champions. And what was another one that I was just thinking of? Primal Rage. I love Primal Rage. I would say that for let's go back up to the Nintendo one. I would say that as far as my most valuable one on this, and I mean, I could be wrong and all that, I would say it's the Mega Man. And that's because, like I said, it does come with the manual. The box isn't original, but it does come with the manual as well. So this one, I bought the manual separately, and it was quite pricey for that manual. Believe it or not, I didn't grow up with Metroid, but I'm not really big into collecting the Nintendo games as much as I am with the Sega Genesis. But I did grow up with quite a couple of these Tiny Toons. That's the one I'm currently playing right now, and It's a doozy. It's people say it's a knockoff of the Super Mario 3, um, and I can see that. For Sega Genesis, definitely the one that cost me the most out of pocket, and it was quite pricey but worth it because it actually is a very fun game. Is Crusader Ascenti, and they compare it to The Legend of Zelda, and I would say it is, but it's its own thing. You get little animal companions with it, and you get to play the game a lot like Zelda with the overworld map. And but yeah, this one, not a lot of copies of it were made, and it's a cardboard box. So yeah, for Sega, all my boxes, aside from the ones I pointed out that they don't make those boxes, like the Sailor Moon and Miracle Piano, all of them are originals, including the cardboard ones. So yeah, but as far as my favorite one of the games, I mean, kind of hard to pick. I did actually enjoy Eternal Champions quite a bit. I used to play that a lot when I was a kid. Um, could get to the last boss, either with Jetta or Rex. Never was able to beat it. My cousin was. My cousin was really good at video games, and everybody has that one cousin that's just can beat practically everything. But Eternal Champions, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I was able to beat that game, but of course, the Emerald, I didn't even know about the Emerald crystals and all that when I was a kid, so I can't say I really 100%ed it. So there is that. I do got to work on that. Spider-Man, a lot of people hate on this game, but I really enjoyed it as a kid. I was able to beat this game as well. I'm starting to see a trend that the ones that I really liked are the ones I was able to beat. Streets of Rage 2, like Spider-Man, Mortal Kombat 2. I enjoyed the second one out of all three of them. And some of these, it's more like a collection thing now that I'm getting into them, that I hadn't played them as a kid, like, The Punisher and Musha. That's another very popular rare game that, I wouldn't even quite say it's a rare. You can find plenty of copies of it around and everything, but it's a pricey game just because of, the hype and all that. But it's one that I didn't quite grow up with, so I don't have as much nostalgia for that game there. Now, as far as consoles go, at one point I did have practically most of the consoles, not all of them, but I did downsize quite a few of them. I got rid of the Sega CD. I really didn't need that in the Sega 32X. I have no nostalgia for those, so no real point in keeping those. Super Nintendo, I didn't grow up with, and to be honest with you, I would get rid of the Super Nintendo if it wasn't for some of these Japanese games that, again, these are custom boxes. These are Japanese games, and yeah, they play on my SNES, and they're fun. I mean, Sailor Moon, Another Story was a lot of fun. I love this Mobile Suit Gundam game. It's just a fighting game. If it wasn't for these three games right here, I probably would get rid of my Super Nintendo. And I know a lot of people love Super Nintendo, and like I said, to each their own. The Sega Saturn, again, I didn't grow up with this either, but it's a fun system. I do enjoy it. The whole Nights into Dreams. I'm sure everybody saw the demo of this game at your local like Target or Walmart or wherever you would go. They'd always have this game set up, and it was definitely an interesting take on it. But mainly the reason I keep my Sega Saturn around is for the Capcom fighting games. X-Men, Children of the Atom. I do have it so that it can play the international versions, because for those types of games, they usually are better. X-Men versus Street Fighter, that type of thing. But again, no real attachment to the Sega Saturn, and it's one I would probably consider getting rid of. The PlayStation 1, though, is one that I did quite grow up with. I did grow up with this one. Lunar was one of my favorite games. I absolutely loved Lunar. This was part of another set, but I keep them here, little bromides. Absolutely amazing RPG. If you ever get the chance, they did do a remaster on the PlayStation and Switch, which, this is one I'm waiting for a remaster of. I just finished it, Parasite Eve. I used to love this one as a kid. Creepy graphics, all that kind of stuff. It's funny what you consider to be good graphics back in the day, things that would scare you and all that kind of stuff, which now it just looks a little bit cheesy and you're just hoping for a remaster. But overall, it's a very good game. Amazing game. Now, we'll get up here. Parasite Eve. I love Star Wars. I think I mentioned that before, but I really do love Star Wars. So I got all the games. I enjoy Masters of Terrakasi. I know it gets a lot of hate too, but it's a fun little fighting game. And I'd be able to unlock all the characters, Mara Jade, and yeah, it's a fun game. Twisted Metal 2. It's another one I grew up with. So the N64, I really didn't have a lot of games for. I have these custom ones, these custom little boxes over here for some of the games. Just because I don't have the manuals, I don't have the actual boxes for them. And I may collect them, but I'm not too attached to some of these games. But I grew up with Pokemon Stadium 2. I was just in time for the gold and silver craze, more than the red and blue type of thing. Rogue Squadron's another one that I used to play as a child as well. Let's see. We got here I never actually beat Ocarina of Time or really even played it. I did have Majora's Mask when I was little, and that's one I really got to pick up. I do have Dreamcast as well over here, and yeah, Seaman. That's a interesting game if you guys know about that one. Oh, another thing that was big when I was in high school and middle school and all that was the Dance Dance Revolution. So I've got the pads, I've got all of that set up to be able to play that. Ask for the younger audiences, ask your mom about your dad about the Dance Dance Revolution. I'm sure they've got plenty of fond memories playing those games. But yeah, PS2, it's a great console. I'd really recommend it for people that are just starting out with a collection because it does have a very big library and a lot of different variety types of games. The Xbox, I didn't really grow up with, and I may end up getting rid of my Series X eventually. It's just, there's a couple games in here that I really got it for, and Knights of the Old Republic and the Sith Lords are one of them. Two of them, but at the same time, you can play those on PC, so I really might not even need the Xbox. Same with the GameCube. I never grew up with the GameCube. I always wanted one because of the Star Wars games, but never got a chance to actually play it until now that I'm an adult. Here's some more. This is another little custom box I have over here. It's a Japanese. Is this Japanese? No, this was a French Sailor Moon video game for the DS. And I do like the, little DS type of games, but never really was into it except for, Pokemon and that kind of stuff. PlayStation 3, I do remember when I got that there, and I played a lot of the Disney Infinity series. It was a shame that I got boxes and boxes full of the figurines for that. I'm missing a Mew. It fell behind my bed, and that's what that little stand there is for. But PlayStation 3 does have its fair share of good games, and of course we got the 3DS over here. A lot of Pokemon games. My sole Wii U game, and honestly, if it wasn't for this game, I would get rid of my Wii U. I know they have this game, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. I know they have it on the GameCube and all that. Probably the Wii as well, but just the Wii U's the best version of it, at least until now. I hear rumors that it may come to the Switch 2 or the Switch, and if it does, then maybe I'll look at just getting rid of the Wii U. I have no attachment to that system. PlayStation 4 is another system that I do have a lot of games for. Got the Godzilla over here. I am a Godzilla fan. I do love Godzilla. In fact, I just recently bought the one of the movies I used to watch a lot when I was a kid was King Kong versus Godzilla. Not, Kong versus Godzilla type of thing, but, the original 1960s version of the game. I am running out of room over here to store stuff. There's that Lunar remaster I told you about. I haven't quite gotten the chance to play it, but I heard it's very true to it is the original, with a couple of voice voice switches. Erica, that's a fun little interactive type of game. I am a Fallout fan as well. My streaming, so far, I'm still figuring out the streaming thing, but been mostly playing just Fallout 76. But I really do want to figure out the streaming. That's what I really want to get into. But I got to give it credit to these kids nowadays. It's a difficult thing to figure out how to hook up all the things and everything. Now we're getting into the Switch. I don't have too many Switch games over here. Mostly just Pokemon. I do got a Zelda in there. Animal Crossing. I spent so much time on Animal Crossing. Code of Princess X. Another good game here. Then we get into the newest thing. The PlayStation 5. Just a couple games in here. A lot of limited run games. I got the Lollipop Chainsaw there and Dark Forces. Limited run. I do enjoy the fact that they bring things in here. As far as consoles go, I do have here a Game Boy that has a light up background, and you can charge it with the USB-C. Which really comes in handy because back in the day you had to have like a little street light or something to be able to play this, and that was the bane of every kid back then, to be able to play your Game Boy in the dark. As I did state, I am running out of room here for stuff because it's not just games that I have. So I moved a couple of things from where they're supposed to be. I have a section over there for CDs. I have a section for movies as well, but I moved the anime down over here. Have its own little section here. Not a huge one, but as I did state, I'm a big Sailor Moon fan. Also Gundam Wing. Very big Gundam Wing fan. So that's what I have over on that shelf here. Just moving on, I'm going to go up over here. Just a couple of little, don't mind the dirt on there. I do need to go ahead and change that out. Went to go see the Sailor Moon live show. Flew out to St. Louis to see that. Amazing show. I got some autographed figurines here. We got Bo-Katan. I still need to get an autograph for that one there, but I got Ashley's signature here for Ahsoka. Just a couple figures. I have a ton of figures, if I'm being honest with you. I have storage buckets full of figures. But these are the ones I have right now that are out. So moving on over here to the consoles, just really quick. This also needs some dusting. I used to have so many more consoles. Like I said, I had the Sega CD. I had a PlayStation 4, that type of stuff. But I've narrowed it down quite a bit over here. Got the N64 here and the Super Nintendo, which again, I might get rid of that one of these days. There are other ways to play the Gundam fighting game and the Sailor Moon games. Don't mind that. That's just my iPad. But I got the PlayStation 3 here, the GameCube, a VCR, because I grew up with VCRs, and there are some things that, believe it or not, never actually made it to. Hey, Chloe. This is my pet Chloe. Never made it to DVDs or Blu-rays. So there's my Nintendo. The Sega Saturn, Dreamcast. There's that Wii I plan to get rid of, and over there is the PlayStation 5. I've got the Xbox Series X over here as well. Moving on over here to this shelf, we've got this is a shelf of books. I've got my Star Wars collection up there, including the 4K ones out in the back. A couple of books. I used to have like practically every Legends book that you can think of, and I gave them away to a sweet girl, but I kind of regret that now. So slowly building that collection back. Then just some regular books. Oh, I have a friend of mine, shout out to her, who actually wrote a book. You should definitely check this book out, either digitally or physically. But yeah, Kathy, amazing author. Definitely go check out her book. I love Rhett Butler's People much more than Gone with the Wind. It's actually a very good, complex book. Fantastic. And of course, you grow up in the early 90s. You're going to love Michael Crichton. and his Jurassic Park stuff. Hoping for the next George R.R. Martin books over here. And a couple of slimmer books here. Francisca Valenzuela. She is a Chilean singer, but she was a writer beforehand, and I adore her. She's amazing. A couple of my favorite comics. Felicia Day's The Guild. I can read this over and over again, especially growing up with MMOs. Comics. Some important ones over here. So that's my friend Ryan Synth. You may know her as. Need to meet up with her to actually get her to sign this. That'd be awesome. And Kat, I do need to get her to re-sign this one or I need to find another copy of this because the marker that I asked her to sign it in, not all that great. But some amazing cosplayers that you definitely should check out. Ryan Synth and Cat Fox. And I've kept my, Spider-Man first run of Carnage. And those are really the only comics I've actually kept. I used to have a ton more comics. But that's my little section there for comics. A couple of CDs. Got some Taylor Swift in there. I love Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa's my fave. Regina Spektor. Some Japanese Sailor Moon, Clover songs. This came from Japan. Friend of mine from Japan, an art book from Sailor Moon. And of course I've got like all the figures here. Well, at least one of each of the figures. Not necessarily the newest one. People recognize the Holocron. You can get those at Disneyland. But yeah, each one of the figures. The Black Lady here is just amazing. Amazing find. These, these were painful to buy. Unfortunately, they are up there in price. And here's my Sailor Moon. Of course I do have them on Blu-ray. If you were wondering why they were missing from the anime section over there. They got their own little section. And over here, I do have some trading cards. But I never got into Pokemon. Instead, I was much more into the Star Wars CCG. The collectible card game, which, I don't have the complete collection yet. These sets are complete. I've got the Premiere, the New Hope, everything all the way up for the old trilogies. I have all those. But the newer ones, I believe it's Theed, Coruscant, and Tatooine, as well as Reflections 3. I don't have any of those, but these are, especially the Death Star. That was a pricey set to get, but I do have those, including the ultra rare. Let's see if I can find them in here. Luke and Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, and the ultra rare Emperor. See if I can find him around here. There he is, Emperor Palpatine. Yeah, but I have those prized possessions. And another one that I'm sure if you talk to people that grew up around this time frame as well, that we were all into was Neopets. The game, not so much the cards, but these are much harder to find as well. I do have the base set. I have Mystery Island, Haunted Woods, Cursed of Morocco, and the Return of Sloth. But, past that, the rest of the sets are impossible to find, or when you do find them, they're a couple of thousand for the complete sets. But I do love me my Neopets, and they're probably starving by now, as most people's are. I do have this X-Men set here. Those of you that grew up in the 90s will recognize these. They would come in everything from popcorn boxes to being sold at local swap meets. But I do have just the X-Men sets for the Fleer, the Ultra Fleer cards. And finally, I do have the Sailor Moon TCG. I really do need to dust over here. Don't mind that, sorry. But yeah, I've got the base set and the newer past and future set as well. A couple books over here. That's my high school way back in the day. And finally, Just these would be my 4K Blu-rays, DVDs, that type of collection over here. And I'm slowly replacing my DVDs with 4K if they're available, with Blu-ray if they're not. Some of these I do need to get in 4K, like Alien, for example. I know that they do have that one in 4K. But yeah, another one that I'm running out of room for. Oh, I love the Fallout series. Those are really great series there. Don't mind this. I have Skies of Arcadia. This is just a backup copy of it. But backup fake copy of that. Yeah, I got so much money. I just happen to have a backup to, a very rare game there. Yeah, but I'm still building up this collection here. It's good to have, physical, and I will be making a video eventually. I mean, you've probably seen hundreds of videos on that, of why it's important to have, physical copies of everything. But this video went on much longer than I anticipated. And I want to thank you for joining me today in the first video upload. Like I said, I just wanted to show the general collection here and get you guys going on it. And I will be going over the individual stuff in here as well. Mostly the games, the video games, and playing them on Twitch and on YouTube Live. So follow the links in the description if you ever want to join. It's just something I'm going to be doing for fun. And you're more than welcome to join me for that. But again, thank you everyone, and I'll be signing off, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.